In Java, we build a bridge like this, but in Bedrock, we can do it like this. And today, we're going to be reviewing the crazy differences between Java and Bedrock Minecraft. According to the YouTube overlords, the fastest anyone's ever subscribed to the channel is 1.5 seconds. So if you want to beat that, let's put 1.5 seconds on the clock and start the timer now. And even if you subscribed after the buzzer, it means a ton, and enjoy the video. What if you combine the end portal with the nether portal? Well, it depends on the version. See, in Java, it'll just break the portal, but in Bedrock, it'll get a weird hybrid like so. But even if that doesn't break Bedrock's end portal, this does. See, if you place fences underneath both versions of portals, in Java, we can teleport just the same, but in Bedrock, we can only walk on top without teleporting. Did you know that creepers explode as lingering potions if they have a potion effect? Well, maybe not if you play on Bedrock, but on Java, if you give it a splash potion and then let it explode, it'll do just that. You've likely noticed that some colors of blocks can't be dyed into others. And while that usually means we keep white wool on hand, in Bedrock, it's as simple as adding a dye to any color base, and boom, easy as that. You've maybe seen this layout of TNT on Reddit or TikTok before. And for those who haven't, what happens here is that we trigger this redstone and then it explodes in a heart shape. But apparently, only Bedrock users will be feeling the love from this one. For a boat to work, it should be able to support your body weight. I mean, that's basic science. But in Bedrock, while we can sit in it just fine, we can't stand on top of the boat entity like we can in Java. Weird. If you put a zombie and a husk side by side, you'll notice that the husk is slightly taller. And in Bedrock, that's even more noticeable, since a husk can fit through a too tall gap in Java, but it can't in Bedrock. When you see a snowball, the last thing you're thinking of is fire. Though if we check a snowball through a flame, the projectile will actually ignite, and in Bedrock, it can even cause fire damage to mobs, making that snow golem a proper flamethrower. The bad omen effect is not something I'd recommend getting often, but when you do, pay attention to how it happens, because while it functions like any other effect in Java, in Bedrock, it'll have an animation similar to the Totem of Undying. Leaves changing with the season has been a long desired feature from the Minecraft community, but at least in Bedrock, that's somewhat possible in the snowy climates, since when you leave out leaves in the snow like so, they'll turn white. Fighting the Wither is no easy task, but in Bedrock, it's even harder, given that the Wither here has double the health of the Java variant, which seems brutal, but it makes that nether star that you get all the more worth it. Redstone and water don't mix, or at least that's what we think on Java, but if you place any of these redstone components in a lake on Bedrock Edition, it'll work just as they do on the surface. How is this piston powered? Well, in Java, there's a system called quasi-connectivity, and while it started as a bug, it's become something of a feature in this version. But since it was unintended, it's not planned for Bedrock anytime soon. Have you ever wondered if sugarcane grows faster on sand or dirt? Well, apparently, it doesn't matter. But it does matter whether you grow it in Bedrock or Java Edition, since in Bedrock only, we can bone meal sugarcane to speed up the growth. Crafting a boat in Bedrock Edition requires using a wooden shovel, which I suppose makes some sense. I mean, what else are you gonna paddle it with? But to a Java player like myself, no matter how long I look at this, it just looks wrong. Did you know that you can get infinite water from one water bucket? Well, in Bedrock, if you have a cauldron and you place your water source above it instead of inside, it'll fill up the same, letting us refill as many buckets as we want from underneath. Why do these fences look so different between Java and Bedrock? Well, the reason is simply that in Bedrock, we can place buttons on top of the fence post like so, allowing for some extra detail. In Java Edition, it's possible to light ice blocks on fire with a flint and steel, but in Bedrock, it's no use. So if you're hoping for a song of ice and fire, you're out of luck. Sorry. Snow layers behave a lot differently in Bedrock when compared to Java, and with that, we can place snow layers and flowers in the same block, which is a weird sight, but a nice decoration. When you work with redstone, you're sure to notice that pistons can't push chests, or hoppers or furnaces for that matter, though for those on Bedrock, it's as simple as the flick of a switch, and frankly, that's what I'm jealous of. Minecraft has plenty of rare occurrences to see, but that's apparently not consistent across all versions. So while it's impressive to find a zombie village in Java with a 2% likelihood, in Bedrock, it's a lot less rare. It's never fun to be poisoned, but even less so to be fatally poisoned, which is an effect exclusive to Bedrock. And while you'll usually see it if you feed a parrot a cookie, it can even kill undead mobs too, unlike real poison. Speed bridging is a big deal for the PvP community, and while it's a big skill to place blocks like this on Java, on Bedrock it's possible to place blocks without sneaking to the edge, and that'll even allow us to speed bridge on a horse for some reason. If you were to look at the sun in Bedrock, you notice a temporary blindness come across your screen, but in Java Edition, we can stare at the sky as much as we want, even if it burns. Most of us know the Easter egg to turn mobs upside down, but did you know that that works for us too? See, if you play on Bedrock Edition and you're not signed in, you can change your name to Grum or Dinnerbone, and you'll flip around just the same. This here is called a debug stick, and it's a useful tool for rotating and changing blocks around like so, almost functioning like a wrench for your creative mode. But unfortunately, it's a Java exclusive, for some reason. Structure voids are a weird block, and on Java, they aren't very useful to us builders, but on Bedrock, we can use these structure voids almost the same way as barrier blocks, except we can walk through them, allowing for some pretty neat build hacks. In Bedrock only, it's possible to have a hopper insert a music disc into a jukebox, but in Java, it'll just stay in the hopper like so, which is unfortunate because we'd have some really cool redstone systems if it did work. Fire's usually a good enough deterrent to keep mobs at bay, or at the very least, it'll keep me out of your house. But in Bedrock, zombies will pathfind through literal fire to get to a villager, and that's some serious dedication. Playing Minecraft at max render distance is a big flex, but that's a bit different between the two versions, since Java has a default max of 32 chunks, whereas Bedrock lets us play up to 96. Though in fairness, Java does have mods to increase this, might I add. If you're playing Bedrock and you push a chest into a shulker, this happens, which is an odd sight for sure, since in Java, we can't even push the chest in the first place. So if you want to create an abomination, you're gonna have to stick to Bedrock. Speaking of shulkers, in Bedrock, it's possible to get different colored shulkers by interacting with a dye of your choice, which I should add is technically possible in Java, but it requires using a complicated scoreboard command to change its team. The F3 debug screen is a useful tool to have, but unfortunately, it's just limited to us in Java, meaning anyone playing Bedrock can't use these shortcuts to see tool durability or chunk borders either, and I think that's unfair. Impaling is a weird enchantment, because while it's meant to apply extra damage to underwater mobs, in Java it doesn't work on drowned, since they're classified as undead, and thankfully Bedrock cleans this up and the enchantment works on any and all mobs that are underwater or under the rain. Using Dragon Breath for tipped arrows can quickly get expensive, so as a simpler solution, Bedrock lets us make a whole stack of them from a potion cauldron like so. And hey, maybe Java would too, if there were potion cauldrons in the version. Armor stands are great for showing off, well, your armor, but what if you want to show off your items? Well, in Bedrock, that's as easy as putting it in the stand's hand, and unfortunately, Java doesn't do that by default. Riding a pig seems like fun, but it does go pretty slow. Though on Bedrock, if you were to breed two parents with a speed effect, their offspring will be even faster. So repeat this a couple of times, and you can leave any Java counterparts well in the dust. Have you ever pulled a mob around with a fishing rod? Well, it's fun, if you get the chance. But for whatever reason, in Java, you can't reel mobs out of boats, but you can in Bedrock. Weird. Cauldrons work very differently between Java and Bedrock. And while it's a shame for us, it's great for the Endermen, since you'll see that only in Java, they can take a bath without getting hurt in the water. Clearly, armor stands behave differently between Bedrock and Java, but we can take that even further. See, if you give both versions a piece of glass to hold, you'll see in Bedrock that it renders such that we can look through the things behind, including this water. The fire aspect enchantment is a great thing to have on your sword, and in just Bedrock, it's a great thing to have on your book, since an enchanted book can be used to ignite TNT and spark a flame on candles and campfires. In Bedrock Edition, it's possible to use golden nuggets as a fuel source, and while it seems highly impractical, I guess it is a literal example of burning through some cash. In Bedrock, doors can be waterlogged like so, which is interesting, but it means that we can't make an air pocket like we can in Java, and oddly enough, I think that might be more useful than having a waterlogged door anyway. Now, if you were to get hit by a falling anvil, it's gotta hurt, and while that's true for us, it's not as much for the villagers, or at least if you compare the two, in Bedrock, if you drop an anvil on a sleeping villager, it won't take any damage. Did you know that creepers can dance? Really, any mob in the game can, since the play animate command exclusive to Bedrock makes it possible to play any animation in the game on a given mob, and the results can get pretty hideous. If you've ever broken a cobweb for one string, you're doing it wrong, at least if you're on Bedrock, since if you were to pick one of these up with shears and then uncraft it, you'll get 9 string instead of the one you would have gotten otherwise. If you go to name an item in an anvil, it'll have an italicized name, which is a dead giveaway, but on Bedrock, we can use the secret Unicode character to fix that, which offers up some solid pranks for sure. In Bedrock, it's possible to hang levers off of floating candles, which sounds useless, but it allows for some really cool decoration when used like so. And honestly, it makes me bummed that we can't do the same for our Java builds. While lava cauldrons were a new addition to Java Edition, they've been in Bedrock for some time, which makes you wonder why this hasn't been fixed. See, blazes and zombie piglins aren't supposed to burn in lava, but they will if it's in a cauldron. Ouch. On Java, many of players have used shaders like so, but while Bedrock doesn't offer those, it does have the option for the ray tracing beta, and that RTX allows for mirrors and lights like so. And while there's a difference between them, both are equally beautiful in my eyes. And crystals can clearly do some wild things when you stack them together, but this is less obvious. See, in Java, they'd stack like you expect, but if you do the same and reload the world in Bedrock, it makes a much stranger pattern. And with that, folks, have a good one, alright?